So, very briefly, we have seen the content of the Upanishad, where we see an outline of living the true life, living the life divine. We come to the Kenopanishad, which belongs to Samaveda. The very name Kena is derived from the first sentence itself, where the Upanishad begins with this sentence called Kene Shitam Patati Preshitam Mana. By what impelled the mind falls into its action? This is the big question which is asked. So the Kenopanishad, by what impelled the mind falls into its action? Who impels the mind to do its action? Yeah, it belongs to Samaveda, means it's a part of the Brahmana Grantha, which is the interpretation of the Samaveda mantras. So that's why it belongs to the Samaveda. Okay. So each Veda has its own Upanishad Grantha. And here, this Kenopanishad is also known as Talla Upanishad, because Talla was the Rishi. Again, there is whole discussion about the immortality of the Supreme Brahman and how to attain this state of immortality and make ourselves free from ignorance or go beyond the state of ignorance and knowledge, and then its relationship with the divine consciousness and the world and the human consciousness. So this is the content of Kenopanishad. Now Kena, this dialogue between the disciple and the Guru, Talavakara, the questions which are asked, who impels all the senses, all the activities which happen, by whose command it happens. And ultimately it refers to the Brahman, and the Kenopanishad narrates this or explains this in the form of a story. The beautiful story is that once all the gods, they started fighting amongst themselves. It's not a fight of ordinary fight. It's a fight of, boasting themselves, because they got the victory over the demons. And in that victory, when they were celebrating the victory, so each god said, the victory is because of me. Agni said it was because of me. Vayu said it was because of me. Indra said it was because of me. So every god came forward and said the victory was because of me. When they were boasting like this and claiming the victory to be their own, so they suddenly found an effulgent being, shapeless. It's just a lump of light which is appearing before them, and they were all shocked what it could be. Now they started, there's a diversion. Now they started discussing what is this bright light? No one has seen something like this before. So who will find out what is this? Now, as representatives of the gods, the first god who went to find out what that effulgent being was, in the Upanishad it is mentioned as the Yaksha. Yakshas are invisible, supernatural beings. So now Agni approaches this lump of light. When Agni reaches near it, so it asks Agni, who are you? Says, I am Agni. I am the first god, always worshipped first. But what's your strength? He says, my strength is I can burn the entire creation. I can devour the entire creation. Then that places a dry blade of grass in front of Agni and says, okay, burn it. Then I know your strength. Now Agni puts all its force, but was unable to burn even a single blade of grass. So humiliated, disappointed, very sad, Agni comes back and reports to all other gods that this is what is my situation. So I couldn't know what it was. Then Vayu goes. Now it asks, who are you? Now I'm Vayu. What's your strength? He said, I can blow off the entire creation by my power. So it again places that small blade of grass. Blow it. So Vayu put all its force but failed. It couldn't move that blade of grass. So it came back disappointed and reported that he failed to understand who it was. Then Indra's turn came to go and find out. So Indra went. When Indra went, that light disappeared. It vanished. And in the place of that lump of light, so what appeared before Indra was a beautiful woman by the name Uma Haimavati. The name given to us is Uma Haimavati, the golden, bright, beautiful woman. Then Indra asked, who are you? Who was that yaksha? What was that lump of light? Now this golden, bright woman, she explains to Indra who that light was, what that light was, who was that. So there she says that you all didn't recognize that was the Brahman. That was the Brahman. Because of his existence, because he is, all is. And you all unnecessarily fight and boasting that the victory was because of you. If there was victory, it was because of this Brahman. It is by the power of Brahman you all grow. If that power is not there, there will be no growth. Now the story is also written in a symbolic manner, and why Agni, Vayu and Indra, these three were chosen as representatives, and why did it vanish when Indra went? Why this knowledge was not revealed to Agni and Vayu but revealed to Indra? These are the questions which later the interpreters and especially Sri Aurobindo has revealed. And Sri Aurobindo has written a beautiful commentary on Upanishad, where if someone wants to find what is the contribution of ancient India towards the study of human mind, human psychology. So here is one, the commentary of Sri Aurobindo on Upanishad. Now the symbolism is that Agni belongs to the earth, represents the physical. So our physical being has no strength to realize the Brahman, have the supreme knowledge independently. So does the vital, emotional being, represented by Vayu. The knowledge can reveal to the pure mind, represented by Indra. And again, here we see that real knowledge, the true knowledge, comes through the Divine Mother. Through the Divine Mother. So that's why in the story you find the woman, Uma Haimavati, comes and reveals this knowledge to Indra. So this, very briefly, is the story of Kenopanishad, through the story of Uma Haimavati, it reveals the supreme knowledge, and it says that this Brahman can be realized by the pratibodha jnana, the reflective knowledge. And one has to go deep within by this interiorization of all our being and living within, contemplating more deeply on the core part of the being. So it slowly starts revealing itself to us, and the knowledge, the supreme knowledge, dawns upon us. So that simply is the story behind or the content of the Kenopanishad. Then we come to the next Upanishad called Katha Upanishad. Katha, the very name given here for the Katha Upanishad, it's belonging to the Katha branch, which was again the Rishi is Katha. So that is why we have the Katha Upanishad. Here again we find that it begins with a story again. The story is like this: a Rishi by the name Vajasravas. He is performing a yajna known as Vishwajit Yajna. Now Vishwajit Yajnas were performed where the Yajamana, one who performs the sacrifice, is expected to give up all that he has, everything that he has, in order to conquer more, in order to gain more, so he has to give. So, following again the same principle, to grow by giving. All those who give more, they gain more. Now Vajasravas, in the story that is there in Kathopanishad, we find that Vajasravas, while giving, he gives in sacrifice, in dakshina to the Brahmins, all the old cows which are useless. They are useless in the sense they have become old, the udders are dried, they cannot be milked, they cannot, beget children, they have become really old. So those kind of useless cows he is giving up in dakshina. This is where his only child, Nachiketa, he observes and then he asks, he feels very painful at heart, and then asks Vajasravas, his father, कि if you were to give up everything and you were just giving up without any discernment, they're giving out all that is useless, then whom are you giving me? Whom are you giving me? So he asked it 3 times, and the father irritated, said, I am giving you to Yama. So this is how Nachiketa goes to the Yama, the world of Yama, where Yama was not present, so he had to spend 3 nights. And when Yama comes back, so he says, since you have spent without food, without water, you are my Atithi at my door for 3 days or 3 nights, so ask me of 3 boons. Then Nachiketa says, my first boon is when I go back from you, may I find my father peaceful and quiet, in an undisturbed state. My second boon is I have heard about the heavenly fire. I want to learn from you this heavenly fire. The third boon is that I want to know from you what happens when a man dies. What happens after death? Some say it exists, the soul exists. Some say it doesn't exist. So I want to learn from you what happens after death. These were the 3 boons which were asked by Nachiketa. Now again the story is very symbolic. Vajasravas, his father, represents the old consciousness, the egoistic, separative egoistic consciousness which doesn't want to give. which wants to possess for itself. But in that consciousness, there is this divine spark. There is this aspiration of moving forward. This is called the child soul, Nachiketa. Nachiketas means that which is not yet manifest. That which is not yet manifest, Nachiketas. So this child soul aspires to know more, know the truth, and get rid of this sense of possession. So this is where the question comes. Actually, the Vajasravas and Nachiketa both are living in each individual. The old consciousness and the child consciousness. The child soul which aspires to know more. Now in the first boon, he says that when I go back, may I find my father peaceful, undisturbed. Because that is the whole soul condition of getting into the higher knowledge. If our consciousness, if our mental consciousness is in a disturbed state, is not quiet, is not peaceful, the higher knowledge will not be done. So it says the first condition, the first boon is, may my father be quiet, peaceful, undisturbed. He forgets what happened. That means forgetting the past. He is not clinging to the past. So, this is the first boon, the first condition that mind has to enter into its quiet state, its silent state, forgetting all the past karmas and lives in that quietude. Then the second condition, the heavenly fire symbolically means the divine will. So one has to sacrifice one's own individual will to the divine will. And that divine will resides in everything and being, every conscious being, in the form of the divine flame. That divine flame, that divine willpower. So one has to see my individual will merges into the divine will. So my will, my egoistic will doesn't play any role. It is the divine will which gets executed through me. And that divine will force in the form of Agni resides within every. So then there is the mention of 3 Nachiketa, and then he says, Nachiketa, so may this heavenly fire be known by your name. May it be known as Nachiketa Agni, because it is the fire of the soul. And 3 Nachiketa means it is operating at these 3 levels, at the physical, vital and mental level. Its work is at this level to purify and raise those and bring in contact with the real self. Then coming to the last part, it says, when he says to Yama that I want to know what happens after death. What is death? This is again a big question. Like every one of us, we carry this meaning, what exactly is death? Why there is so much of fear for death? What happens after death? What happens to the soul? When Nachiketa asks this question to Yamaraja, Yama says, he tries to avoid. Yama tries to avoid. He says, even the gods do not know about, they are perplexed about this question. They don't have the real knowledge of this knowledge of death. And it's natural because gods are typal beings. They don't experience the birth and death. So they will not have the knowledge. If they want to experience birth and death, they have to be born in the form of human beings to experience the birth and death. So they don't have the knowledge. They will not have the knowledge. It is Yama who will have the knowledge of death and birth, because he is the ordainer. He is the controller. So he controls this aspect. So the supreme controller who controls the birth and death is known as Yama. Now Yama again is not something outside of us. Yama lives within ourselves and decides our destiny. So that is So Yama here is not Yama sitting on the buffalo and carrying its weapon and then coming with his dutas, taking the soul and everything. So Yama means Guru. Yama is the supreme Brahman. Yama means Guru. And my Guru is sitting within my heart. So Yama then, says to Nachiketa, look, you take all things that you want. I'll, give you the heavenly damsels. I'll offer you this, I'll give you this, anything what. As long as you want to live on the earth, you live. Whatever happiness you want, whatever pleasure you want, I'm going to offer you. But don't ask this question. So it is not the Yama who has to come and say to us, this is a day-to-day reality. How we get cajoled, how we get lured by these things. And if Nachiketa had given himself to this, he would have been denied this supreme knowledge. Because so it shows the significance of this story is that Nachiketa says, I have seen you. When I have met you, then I have got everything. Why do I worry about damsels? Why do I worry about, long life and all these things? Everything is by default granted when I have met you. So I want this knowledge to be given. So the point here is that as long as our mind, our senses, everything gets attached to all these things, the real knowledge will not dawn upon us. So where the real work to be done is to purify the senses, to purify the mind, and raise them to a different level of consciousness, a higher level of consciousness, and bring them in contact with the soul. Then the desire, so as long as we are carrying this desire self, the real self will be hidden. So that's why we'll see in the Gita, it says, it is the Atman, it is you yourself are the friend of yours and you yourself are the enemy of yours. If you want to save yourself, save by yourself. Uddhared atmanatmanam, na atmanam avasadayet. Atmeva hyatmano bandhu, atmeva ripuratmana. Atma, you yourself are your friend, you yourself are your enemy. If you want to deliver yourself, there's no one else who is going to deliver you. You yourself can deliver yourself by yourself. So it says, as long as we cling to our lower selves, there are always two selves in us. This is where the Upanishad is hinting upon, and the Gita explains in a very simple language. One is our apparent self, the projected self, the ego self, where separation, division, clinging, desire, fear, all kinds of things are there. And we consider to be that as we. We say, oh, that is how I am. But that's the apparent self, the projection. But the deeper self, its nature is different. It doesn't have clinging. It doesn't have clinging to the external objects. It enjoys everything, but not gets affected by anything. So, we have to turn our apparent self and bring it in contact with the real self. Then it is delivered. Then we are saved. So, Yama teaches to Nachiketa how to have control over senses, how to have control over mind, how to have complete control over yourself, so then the higher knowledge can enter into you. Now it says, what do you mean by death? Is death simply casting off of the mortal body? Yes, that is what we understand by death. Now the whole definition of death which is given there is different. Death is that, their death means, how it is explained? Like my old self, the Vajasravas, which clings, which is egoistic, the desire self, when Nachiketa burns, Nachiketa is growing. This new soul has a new birth. There is a new birth of the soul into the higher consciousness. The old self dies. It has nothing to do with the body. It can remain in any body. That is the death. And what happens? And all those who cling to their desire self, or the lower self, the apparent self, and full of desires, have never worked upon their mind, their senses, have never worked on their self, have never become aware of the existence of this higher self. They keep coming again and again. They fall into this cycle of birth and death and keep suffering. The soul keeps suffering, taking in many bodies. And all those who have detached themselves from this have brought themselves in contact with the higher self and live their life by being guided with the higher self, transformed their lower nature. They have made themselves free from the cycle of birth and death. It is not necessary for them to be in body or be in body. They can remain in one body as long as they want, or they can cast up that body or remain at a subtle level and work from there, or if they choose, they can take another body. So the choice is theirs. Which body, how, when. So they have the freedom to choose that. They are called the Jivan Mukta.
So this work from home policy for these people, where do they stay? Jivan Mukta, if they are not taking work and the other will, I can take.
There are, worlds within the worlds. There are many subtle worlds. Yes. So how it is explained is that when the, like a soul departs from the body, the physical goes into the Panchabhutas. It merges into that. The vital goes to the vital world. The mind goes to the mental world. The soul goes to its source. Okay. But carrying the memory of it. The soul carries the memory of all that is done. Okay. So it can start from where the work is left. So sometimes we hear that, if you do this karma, you will be born as dog, snake, this, that. In the Puranas we hear all these stories. You will go to hell. But that doesn't happen. If you look closely at the Vedic and Upanishadic teaching, the teaching of the Gita, it doesn't happen that way. Because once the human birth has taken place, because in the evolutionary process there is no return to the so one is not born as dog or monkeys or snake or this kida or that kida. So what happens there? Then why are all these things false? Do the Puranas, the Puranic stories, they propagate false stories, falsehood? No, there is a truth in it. What is the truth? The truth is too much greed. I'm giving you one example. Too much greed, too much anger. It's a force, it's a vibration. It can materialize and take a shape. We have heard stories that someone gets angry, some rishi or something, starts sweating and each drop of sweat becomes a demon. A wrong vibration or negative energy can be materialized, can take a... But these are my vital being taking a shape, taking a birth, can become a dog, can become a thing. But soul has nothing to do with it.
In effect, you can die only once.
Huh?
In effect, you will die once.
Not necessary. You can die again and again.
No. Death, as explained.
As we explained, like you die only once. Like you make yourself free from that cycle of birth and death and enjoy the state of immortality forever. And then you are a free soul. You are a free soul. You want to choose a body, can choose. So that's why the mother says there are many great souls waiting to manifest on the earth to save this earth. Take the whole evolution, accelerate the whole process of evolution. But they are not finding the right adhara, the right kshetra, right field where they will be born. So this is where the humanity, that's why like mother put a question, this world is going to change. Will you help? Will you collaborate? So this is the kind of preparation that is needed. So this is where, like when we last few days before we had a workshop called Sambhuti. Sambhuti means there we brought this whole deeper significances of why this preparation is needed. When a man and woman, they come together to give birth to a child, what kind of preparation is needed? To invoke the higher souls to manifest through them. So that was the purpose of having a prenatal education workshop. And this is where slowly the awareness is growing. Because there are many, many great souls who are waiting to manifest, take human birth. But the humanity is not yet ready to give them place. So enough preparation is needed. So this is what is the content of the Katha Upanishad. Did you get a little bit of answer to your question? Maybe so. So here actually we think that, look, man dies and maybe soul is something like a bird or something, it flies somewhere and lives in some world. This is also a question which is asked again. The seeker asks this question that so many people, so many deaths are happening, and so many births are happening. And suppose this proportion is changed, like only deaths happen. Why the other world is not getting filled up? Or when so many births happen, whether the other world from which the souls come, does it get empty? This is the kind of questions which usually comes to the mind. So it's not something, a world which is like a room where, like the souls, they go and settle. So it is Purna. So that is why in the beginning of the Upanishad, this famous mantra which is there, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Such a beautiful, profound mantra. Swami Dayananda Saraswati of Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, who left his body a few years before, he has written a commentary on this particular mantra of around 40 pages. Very logically he has explained this mantra. He had his own Vedantic way of explaining. It's available on the internet, anyone can just Google Swami Dayananda Saraswati on Purnamada Purnamidam and you get, yeah.
So I think the fundamental aim of any soul on this part of the world is, so, and whatever efforts have been put all through the years in creating this Katha, can you say that the fundamental aim of anyone on this part of the earth has been to escape the cycle of birth and death? Can we say that?
Yes, you can say that. The fundamental aim is, yes, to escape, not to escape, to go beyond. You use the word escape, but they use the word going beyond. Making oneself free from this cycle, free from this bondage. Because this cycle of birth and death is a bondage. And the soul in its essential form is a free soul. It has fallen into this bondage, it has to be made free. Made free means realize its own freedom. It is free, it has to realize its own freedom. See, we all are free. I say in India, you take a nation. In a nation, everyone is free. But that's what Sri Aurobindo says. This freedom every citizen of a nation must feel within himself. That is the true Swarajya. Outer Swarajya has no meaning unless and until we feel that freedom within. Do you walk in this country saying that I am free? We are still bound. We have not experienced the real freedom. When Alexander came, he looted so many things, and before going he stopped, he paused. He said, look, I have carried everything. I am the Digvijayi. I am the greatest emperor. Everything I have achieved, and whatever I wanted to take from India I have taken, the best. But I want to take one more, and then my work is done. I want to take one sadhu, one tapasvi, one rishi from here. So he sent the message to his people, his officers, go and find out and get one. So they went and they found that one person is sitting in meditation. So they said, Chal. He said, where? He said, the emperor has commanded. He wants to take you. We don't know what work he has with you, but he has commanded that we have to get one. And we have found one piece here. So we want to take. He said, if your emperor has some work to do with me, let him come here. Why should I go? I have never moved from here for years. So they went and then told him, Alexander, no, he is too rigid, obstinate. He doesn't want to move from that his place. You have to come. So he comes. He said, I am the emperor, come. History has recorded this. Okay. So he says, but why? He said, I want to take you with me. He said, but I have not moved from this place for years. I don't know when. Maybe hundreds of years I am sitting here. So no one can move me from here. Then he removes his sword and said, if you don't obey, I'll remove your head from your body. He said, do that. Who denies? I'm not going to stop you. You do whatever you want to do. That's your work. So he closed his eyes and sat in meditation. Now Alexander thought, the person who is not fearing the death, what is the use of killing him? So he failed. He went. So that is the real freedom. I am not bound by anything. So all those who have freed themselves from this bondage, from this cycle of birth and death, they experience the freedom. They live eternally, experiencing the immortality and ananda in wherever they are, in whatever form they are, whatever they do. That is what is the ultimate teaching we get from the Upanishads.
What about reincarnation and rebirth? That is also there.
That is also by choice.
Reincarnation and rebirth are two different.
Yeah. Incarnation is different thing and rebirth is different thing. Rebirth happens as long as we are bound. The natural rebirth happens. When death is there, birth will happen. When birth is there, death will happen. But we can change that process. Change that process means like birth and death is an eternal process which will go on. No one is going to stop. But we can have control over that by making ourselves free. I can choose to be born or not to be born. Or born in a particular manner or particular shape or particular body. Or as long as I want, I'll be born.
I still don't get this increasing population, multiplying population. So, where does all the souls come and taking birth more and more and more and more? I mean, where is the logic of more people taking, more souls taking birth? And a phenomenal increase in rate. Is the work becoming a very sought after destination for the heaven or the hell? I get so much of it.
No, there are more people dead than alive.
No, it's a very serious question I have from many years. I thought it was a stupid question, so I keep asking for so many questions.
No, good question, needs more contemplation.
No, you evolve from lower birth to human. So more coming from the lower birth to human.
Can be. One question.
There is no soul.
There's no soul. Then what is there? Now here it is the soul is the main the central aspect of the thing is the soul. I don't have any answer to like how it multiplies, but it can multiply to any amount also.
What is first?
Hmm. What? Chakras. These are again, like how do we purify ourselves to become more and more conscious of the central being? Huh? To increase the level of awareness, we need a lot of preparation and a lot of purity to bring into various parts of our being. So, Nadi Shuddhi, Buddhi Shuddhi, Manas Shuddhi, Sharira Shuddhi, the only Shuddhi. And imagine how much impurity is there in us.
So, Nachiketa says, the first condition was to keep his father's But really, it is this death of the old into the new that is what is really the question. So, what he would have said, the death of the father. That
No. It's a Nachiketa is the, like the child soul which is a part of, so for example, both Vajasravas and Nachiketa, they are part of us. The old consciousness will die when the new consciousness is more powerful. He's still a child soul. So he can pray for, bringing more peace into the disturbed state. Like as we say, like when we're too much disturbed and there is no way to do it. So there is a spark in us, like how can I become more peaceful? We aspire for that. And that very aspiration comes, and that very aspiration, this fire of aspiration is Nachiketa in us. Now it has awakened. Now it will grow. So we make all efforts. So that is why our aspiration is known as the Nachiketa's aspiration. Like the very fact that we decide, no, I'll go and attend some Vipassana camp, so it helps me to become, like more quiet and all. This very aspiration is Nachiketa. So it is not happy. The real self is not happy when we grow aware. We see that it is not happy with the way it's going on. It's not happy with itself. It wants that peace. It seeks for peace, light, truth, beauty. What seeks is Nachiketa.
he seeks transformation, but it is.
Okay. It's the work of fire at the three levels, at the physical, vital and mental level. Yes. In purifying all this and bringing them in contact with the soul.
Mental and emotional same thing.
Yeah. The emotion comes from the seat of vital. The desire. Vital is, vital is something wherefrom we get all our energy. But there are two phases. One is the lower vital, one is a higher vital. Our higher vital is the source of all our energy. If I want to do sankalpa and do anything, so if I am clinging to the lower vital, so it weakens me. all my desires, cravings for material things, anger, passion, all these things belong to the low vital. So as long as we are clinging to that, the real energy which can help us moving forward will not come. So vital is something, vital means important, no? Vital, this is vital to me. So this is the life force. It's actually the life force. Life force.
It is not somehow, it is not got popularized. The physical level has got popularized, mental level has got.
Yes.
People might call it an emotional level.
Emotional level, it is just talk to the emotional level, but emotional is a small part of the whole of the vital.
This is a richer concept,
Yes.
vital level. But somehow the world has not picked up this word.
No, it was more popularized by Sri Aurobindo. By Sri Aurobindo. By bringing a vital education.
And this Ichha thing with Vishwa Katha, we have the Ichha power. So what is Ichha?
The Ichamriti is they have made themselves free from this cycle. They're free souls.
So that is Ichha.
So that is one thing, and they're also in that time, during that time, there is a process by which one can leave the body consciously. There is a yogic process by which one can leave the body consciously. No, many people did that. Bhishma did, Akrura did, Uddhava did, Vasudeva and Devaki did. If you go, you will find that how there is a process by which one can give up this body and then go. When they feel that, okay, now it is enough.
In astral projection, the primary stage of this
What?
astral projection leaving the body, is it the primary stage of permanently leaving the body?
Astral position.
Projection. So you try to leave the body and you try to come out of the body.
The out of body experience. You mean the out of body experience? Out of body experience, what happens? See, in out of body experience, it is not the soul which departs. It may be my vital part, vital being, or the mental being which departs, but not the soul departs. It happens to many people. It happens in sleep also. So sometimes, especially you see, it happens with the children. They're very deep sleep. You wake them for a long time, they will not come back. Or suddenly, oh, what happened? It happens in dream also, like some part of our vital or the vital being, it wants to leave and then enjoys the whole world outside and comes back, settle.
So that's nothing to do with permanent.
No, nothing. Okay, so this is what Isha, Kena, Katha. Then we have the Prashna Upanishad. Very briefly, I will just introduce this. This belongs to Atharva Veda, and it is concerned with the question of creation, human personality, and metaphysical principle in man. So here one gets answer to the 6 important questions raised by 6 seekers who came to Pippalada and asked. The first questioner, the seeker, he asked Pippalada, from where came the creatures of birth? This is a natural question, that where from this creation comes? How does the birth happen? The answers given may not be a complete answer, but the way it's shown, how to find out that. Then who is the greatest God? Naturally, if the creation has happened, the birth has happened, something has manifested as the world, then there must be a source, or there must be a power which makes this happen. So what is that source? What is that ultimate power which brings this creation into its existence? Then it says like how many gods are there and how many are manifest. So gods means the different powers of that supreme reality. He said, what exactly his powers, the different powers, because he is all powerful. So he will be having all the multiple powers, all multiple energies. So what are his different manifestations? And the question is like how he has manifest, how much of him is manifest and how much is yet to manifest. You see, very logically, sequentially they have put these questions. Then question is like what are consciousness, sleep, state of being, awake. So now the question comes when this birth happens. This consciousness is the center of everything. So what are the different states of consciousness? So that's the whole discussion is there in this. Then which heaven does a man attain who meditates on Om? What happens all those who have given themselves for finding out their real selves? Not entangled with the worldly affair, those who have opened themselves, to which heaven they attain to. What are the divisions of Purusha? Again it says like if that ultimate reality is the Purusha and how he has fragmented himself. In how many different, like in his fragmentation also, like what are the further divisions, in how many states of consciousness, what are the different states in which it lives. So how he manages here. So this is again the question. And answer to these 6 questions is the content of Prashna Upanishad. Then we come to the Mundaka Upanishad, which again belongs to Atharva Veda. It is concerned with the distinction between the lower knowledge and the higher knowledge, and dwells on the problem on how one can enter into higher knowledge. The first question here asked is that there are 2 vidyas, para and apara. What is para vidya? The higher knowledge and the lower knowledge. And what is the higher knowledge and what is the lower knowledge? So there it is even, like it's a sometimes it comes as a shock that it puts Vedas, Upanishads, Gita, all the scriptures as aparavidya, the lower knowledge. Understand? So what we are doing now, sitting here, is aparavidya. The paravidya is what? So as long as we cling to the scripture without taking it as an aid for our self-realization, it remains as aparavidya. When the scriptures are accepted as an aid to our self-realization, and when the self-realization happens, the scriptures becomes redundant. So one has to go beyond the scriptures. So that's why Krishna says in the Gita, if you want to attain to me, your study of the Vedas is not going to help. Your yajna is not going to help. Naham vedaihi, na yajnai, na tapovhi. Your tapas is also not going to be of any help. You want to attain to me. But then, all these things are not unnecessary. One has to do it. Without tapas, without the scriptural studies, without yajna, without all these things, one cannot. These are all preparations. He said, yajna, through yajna, you will not get into me. By your study of the Vedas will not help in bringing you to me, attaining to my consciousness. Naham vedai, na yajnai, na tapovhi. Then what is the way out? How do I get you? Arjuna asks this question. So he says, bhaktya tvananyaya. This is ananya bhakti. Ananya bhakti, the unflinching devotion. The study of Vedas is futile if that ananya bhakti is not there. So that's why it says the study of Vedas will not help you. If it is simply a mechanical study of the Vedas, without relating it to the self, without that bhakti, without that bhava, without any desire to release oneself or realize one's higher self, the study of Vedas is of no use. The same way, tapaha, yajna, swadhyaya, nothing is of any help. So, till then it remains as aparavidya. So that is why Sanat Kumar is approached by Narad. Narad goes to Sanat Kumar. So Sanat Kumar asks, why have you come, Devarshi, to me? And imagine Narada, Krishna says, Devarshinam aham Narada. So I am Narada. The divine himself says, Krishna says, I am Narada among all the Devarshis. Now this Narada has fallen into grief, shoka. Too much of suffering, means that he is not happy, experiencing extreme unhappiness. His soul is not happy. He approaches Sanat Kumar. So Sanat Kumar asks, tell me, Narad, what have you studied? Which universities? What are the subjects? So he places all his certificates before him. Say, look, I have done Harvard course, Cambridge course, this, that, Vedas, Upanishads. Name any branch of knowledge and I have done the course. There is a long list of subjects he places before Sanat Kumar. Shastra Vidya, all Chatushashti Kala, Dhanur Vidya, all kinds of Vidya, Darshana, all Darshanas, everything I have read. Then why have you come to me? He says, I have heard I am experiencing too much unhappiness. And I have heard the way to happiness, tarati atmavit shokam. He says one who has the self-knowledge can overcome his grief. And I have studied all these things, but my study has not put me in touch with myself. I don't have the self-knowledge. And I know you are a self-realized person. And you know the way how someone can realize the self. So that is why I have come. So make me Atmavit. So then I know myself. I realize myself. I live in myself and I become myself. Atmavit means one who knows Atman. One who has realized the self. Atmavit. Atmavit tarati shokam. Tarati atmavit shokam. Tarati means overcomes, crosses beyond. Shokam is the grief, unhappiness. Yeah. Tarati, T-A-R-A-T-I, tarati, atmavit, A-T-M-A-V-I-T, shokam, S-H-O-K-A-M, shokam. Grief, shoka. Tarati atmavit shoka.
One must realize oneself.
One who has the self-realization can overcome all the griefs because he lives in the self and becoming the self. So now then Sanat Kumar accepts him as his disciple and then shows him the various aspects of self-realization. Now the real study of Narada begins after all his university education. Yeah, this is all we feel as Narada felt of late. And sometimes it is also dangerous to, conduct these kinds of workshop. In the sense that in USA I gave a series of talks on prenatal education. So there were 3-4 people who became very influenced by this idea. Then they started, crying, felt very guilty. They said that what have we done? We now feel that can we get married again and then follow all this, conscious process and beget children, conscious children. We to have wasted one life completely. So they said, sir, you should not have talked all these things to us. So now we are feeling very guilty.
the worst is with the children. They go back home and the children ask, so why did you do all this?
Wait. Yes. So fortunately, children were not a part of workshop. Otherwise, they could have asked.
In US, they can sue their parents.
Yeah. Yes. So if I am like this, you are responsible. तो चलो कोर्ट में विचार होगा. So this whole discussion about para and apara vidya. Now imagine like why they have made this distinction between para and apara and kept all our scriptural studies and everything under apara vidya. And the only para vidya, the higher knowledge, is the self-knowledge. 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 Yes. So if that is what, like Sri Aurobindo, when he was drafting the national system of education, what did he say? He says that if my education cannot put me in touch with myself, there is no education at all. We have to have that education. That was the system of education in the Upanishadic time. How they imparted the education in the Gurukul. And what is happening today in the name of education? It's complete waste. Because it doesn't give the self-realization. It doesn't make me aware about myself. I am not aware of anything of... Huh?
Instead of making aware of it, that makes us unaware cases.
Yes. Because the education institutes, organizations, all those who are framed, they know that if people become aware, we gain nothing.
So, by the way, in Google now, this is what's being taught. So, not in this language, aparavidya and paravidya. So, the self-knowledge is what's getting taught now. So, you may have come from any degree. They're the best people chosen around the world. So, you can come from any Harvard, Yale, MIT, that's fine. You've been chosen. But now, the leadership development or high potential development at that level, the most popular course is this, self-knowledge. And the waiting list is about 8,000 to 9,000 Googlers waiting, and they can't even take the capacity. So is doing Salesforce, so is doing SAP, and spreading like wildfire on LinkedIn. But Google is the one who's dividing the course. So it's happening. And now
So what do they teach in the course?
so they teach, that's a very interesting thing. So teaching self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-management, empathy, compassion. What they're doing is...
Yeah, that is all okay. But the point is, like all those who teach, do they have?
So mostly the teachers they have picked up, it's a very interesting profile. If you go deeper into them, who are the teachers? Then they are mostly Zen priests, which they don't talk about. They say we are Googlers, we are teachers, and we're teaching in Google, because I'm getting trained there. So they say these all my professors are Zen priests. And then they are trained, and then they are into all this, and then they are teaching us. So now they're perfected the corporate art, but the basic background, they also hold seminars like what we do in Sri Aurobindo, like this kind of a thing, or other things. They also hold such kind of seminars for Zen institutes. So they're basically from there, but they don't talk about it now. So a lot of people have now left, say McKinsey and other such consultancies, the top consultancy from the youngsters. They have left all that, and now they're getting trained here.
Get some waitlisters here.
So all those people can be trained by you much better than that one.
Look, if it's self-realization, how can somebody else tell you?
No, it is, shows the way.
So maybe Sanat Kumar's syllabus may have. You can give them Sanat Kumar.
But what I mean to say that there's an interesting movement happening, which is going away. Before this, the movement was 70-30-10, which the 70% is your on the job. So don't even talk of theory. All the theories, like you can compare that with the scriptures. All the best of the theories, MIT or whatever, that is all 20%. 10% actually. 20% is Guru Shishya. If I say coaching and mentoring, and if I translate that into Guru Shishya, that means some mentor or some coach can tell you. 10% is all the scriptures and theories. 70-30-20. 70%, 70-20-10. 70% is your on the job. That means What will you do with the scriptures? Now after that guru, after the scriptures, what will you do with it? So I can see that the West moved in a little different direction, but it moved in that direction. It's the Lavender model. After that, now they are talking about what you are saying now. They are coming to this side. And by the way, all these people, they do spend time in India, and they all have spent time in India 2 years and 3 years. They were telling me about the places they've been here and the time they have spent here, which even I have not visited.
Put some data in this here.
And this huge money, so we will all be.
Yeah, one workshop is enough for the whole year. So, yeah.
You said there's para, that's higher knowledge, self-realization.
Who?
Para, higher knowledge.
Para is.
Self-realization. But the lower, what is the lower knowledge?
Lower knowledge, everything else.
All scripture.
Everything. All our education, degrees, everything is. The only knowledge, self-knowledge, is the higher knowledge. The Brahma Jnana, Brahma Vidya is the higher knowledge. So we take a break.